Good morning, world. I am Judy, your web-based therapist, making therapy accessible and convenient for our clients in Florida and New York, and of course, sharing information worldwide. As you know, we have been talking about all sorts of different things. And last week, if you joined me, thank you. I did mention that we are going to be talking about a few things. And it's election season. So during election season, people start talking about all sorts of stuff and voting and things like that. But I wanted to go a little further than just, hey, you should go vote. I want to talk about civic engagement because all the stuff we keep talking about, all the stuff we keep saying we want to do, all the things we keep saying we would like, I think, or my opinion, which I believe is right, because it's my opinion, is that civic engagement is how we're going to get the stuff we want. So that's why today we're talking about civic engagement. And with me today, I have three wonderful, awesome people. To my left or my right, on one of my sides is Commissioner Christina Romulus from Boynton Beach, Florida. She is also the founder of Politicom, a consulting firm that helps take the pain out of campaign. You think I didn't know, did you? Mm-hmm. And then we also have the lovely Katia Sanfleur, who is a political strategist who is joining us to help us out. And of course, we have the chair of Unified Palm Beach County, Chuck Ridley. And actually, of all those people, Chuck is the one that I've worked with the longest because I can't remember. You're muted, Chuck, you're muted, Chuck, but I know you had something to say. But
I was just saying that's because I'm old.
Hey, what you trying to say about me?
No, I worked with you before you were born.
Oh, okay. He's good. So you guys, today I want to talk about civic engagement. And the first thing can I tell y'all my little story of my first experience of community? Can I? Yes? Okay. So my first experience of community, with trauma, I remember all the details except when it happened. I grew up, I think I was probably about 6 when my mom left Haiti. And I was in this, it's not a boarding school because the school is not part of it. I lived in this boarding house where it had a lot of children. Most of it, let me rephrase that. It was girls. It had girls. Many of us, our parents were in the US or somewhere else, and the kids came to Saint Mark. They lived there for school. And during the unrest in Haiti, I was I can't remember the age, but like 9 plus or minus a year or two. Stuff was going on in Haiti. And they started this whole looting thing where they would pretty much, a mob goes into a house, takes whatever they want, and leave. At that time, us innocent people, we thought all they took was stuff. When I got to the US, I found out they took a lot more, or they did a lot more than just take stuff. But when it was time, one day it was discovered that they planned on coming to our house. This house that has girls, just like from the age of 3 to young women and teenagers. And then the men of Saint Mark said no. Somebody found out that it was happening. They told us, and all day we spent trying to take whatever we could save away from, so that when they came, they didn't get it. And then about closer to sunset, the mob came. The men of Saint Mark said no. They got up. They kind of circled our house, and people were there. They came. They were loud, they did a lot of stuff, but nobody ever got into our house. That was my first experience of community, because it was a community that said, no, this house has children, it has little girls from 3, you're not getting in. That was my first experience of how a community could decide how things go. A community could make change.
Bathroom?
Bobby. So for me, that stuck in that the message I got there, why that stuck for me was that it said, no matter what, no matter how big a crowd, no matter what's going on, when the community comes together, when the community makes a decision, things can change. Because even after our situation at our house, I didn't really see I didn't really hear much of that stuff happening in Saint Mark anymore because, next Saint Mark, like that's how it worked. The men of Saint Mark said no, it wasn't happening, and it stopped. So my first question to you guys: do we have a community, or can we get a community, or how do we? Because that, to me, that was power, because the mobs, the people that were there, they could have done stuff, they could have said, but none of that happened because the community got together and said no. And we as a community here, we've been asking, we've been demanding, we've been saying a lot of stuff, but nothing is changing. So is it that we don't have a community, or no, this is a real question to you guys. All of you are muted, so if you're gonna say something, please unmute yourself.
Well, I think I'll kick it off. And the question is not a matter of, is there a community? It's just a matter of where, right? Where is that community, and which community do you belong to or do you partake in? And there's so many of us, so many different iterations of us. So for example, I know we have Mr. Chuck Ridley with us here tonight. He's part of Unify. That is a community. That is a community that has been engaged and really trying to make sure that they're getting out the vote, and they're getting elected officials together. They're getting community leaders together. They're doing the thing. Right. And then you think of Women on the Run. You think of an organization like that that's bringing in different women from all across the board and having them, teaching them how to run for office. There's so many different communities that are available, and they may not look exactly like what you saw when you were in St. Mark, fortunately, but they exist. And that is I think the most powerful thing that we can do. And Black Lives Matter, that is a community. You think of these organizations that have said enough is enough, and they're getting up, they're standing up, they're coalescing, they're doing all the things that need to be done. The progress may not be getting done as quickly as we need it to be, especially with being Black people, being people, minorities, where, we see the injustices day in and day out. I'm a mother of 2 boys. I see the injustices that are being done against young Black men, and it frustrates me. It angers me, to really be 100% honest. But the communities exist, and it's just a matter of where we tap into them and how we help them be more effective and more visible in our communities. So that would be my answer to that question.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I'll jump in. Thank you, Commissioner. And I wholeheartedly agree. But Judy, I also come from a community similar to the one that you just described. I'm a son of Delray Beach. All the things I'm proud of. I think that is the piece that I'm most proud of, being a son of Delray Beach. Delray Beach has, and I'm talking about the historic Black community in Delray Beach, has one of the oldest, and in fact, there is data that talks about the area we now call the Set in Delray as having the most cohesive amount of folks who've stayed there through generations in the country. It's historic how long the families have been in Delray. An example is a friend of mine from Delray that some of you may know, Reggie Cox. Our grandparent, my grandfather and his great-great-grandfather settled the little area that in the street I grew up on. And so when people come to attack us, they don't even have any concept of how long the history and how many generations go back. Look, I'm a jerk. I'm self-prescribed, unapologetic jerk. I get it. Okay.
At least you own it.
Okay. Well, yeah. But in Delray, now you can call me a jerk in a lot of places, but you just won't get away with it in Delray. They will agree I'm a jerk, but they will also let you know he's our jerk, and you can't call him one. That exists today. Now, the last piece I want to tell you about what happens out of a community. In that same community, coming out of the crack wars, we started a group called Mad Dads. That group, what it did was we took our community back from crack sales being rampant. Mm-hmm. And we walked into drug dens and made it clear that if you're not going to sell drugs in Delray. And for those of you who choose to do it and do it in a way that's going to be harmful, you don't have to worry about law enforcement. Because those of us and I'm a recovering crack addict. And so when they saw me come in, it was like, dang, like he knows where all our holes are. Like he got way too much intelligence. And all the men that were standing with me were also recovering crack addicts. And we took our neighborhood back. And that led directly to the development of Village Academy, because that community said, we are responsible for making and educating our children. Now, is it as simple and as smooth as that? No, but only community does that. Only value of community do it. And when we remember that I am my brother's keeper, you'll begin to understand where and what we're coming from. Yeah, we beat up on each other, right? Yeah, we argue like family. And we got to get better at it. We got to remember what that means. Like when they come to attack you, they come to attack me. And I ain't going to let them attack you. Mm-hmm. If they attack you, they got a whole bunch of people to fight. And that is what community does. And I'm so glad you bring that up. We got to lean back into that. Unapologetically, we got to lean back into it.
A couple weeks ago when Ray Whiteley was here for the Black Men's debriefing, one of the things he said was that, yes, we can fight. I'm going to knock you down. I'm going to fight you as my brother. And when we're done fighting, I'm going to reach down, make sure you're good, and we're going to go outside together. So, yes. Before we jump in, Senator Bobby Powell, he's been trying to get in, but he's here. Hi, Bobby, or hi, Senator Powell. I like saying Senator Powell. So, so now we have our full house. So we're talking about community. Do you have anything else? Did you want to chime in, Katya, or where are we? Katya? Can you hear me? You're muted.
It looks like she's trying to find the unmute button.
Oh, actually, you know what? There you go. That's an easy fix.
My apologies. I just found it when you did it. I'm not familiar with the platform. Thank you guys again for having me. Community, I hear what you're saying. What happened in Simaki is a little different. I've seen, we can see that. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, we can see that happen more on a smaller level, but I think as a community, we do have a voice. I think we do make decisions as a collective community, and a lot of times you see us do that when we vote. When we vote, we're saying as a collective, this is what we want. We have an opportunity, especially in this election, to say what we want, right? We can say as a collective community, by casting our votes together, that we want this country to go in a particular direction. And I don't think that we can discount that as actual physical active activism, as actual physical active community organizing. You said Mr. Chuck Ridley is doing work centered around getting the community to vote, getting the elected officials. I think as we grow, and we are such a huge community, right? Florida's huge, and there are different pockets of Florida, but the ability to use your voice, for instance, in 2016, we all used or 2018, we all used our voices to say that we wanted to make sure that rights were restored for felons. And we did that in a collective way. We did that in a resounding way. And that was a message that we sent to those in power in Florida, that this is what we want. So it's the same way as everybody coming together to say, you know what, we don't want this anymore. And this is how we make change. So depending on how a community can make change, I absolutely think that we still do that. And I absolutely think that we do that through voting.
Okay. Cool. All right. So let me, I don't know what I'm hearing. Another thing I want to talk about, since Katya started talking about, is using, I call it our act right sticks, because to me that's I think most, I don't want to completely say every, but at least most Black people know what an act right stick is, right? Yes. Don't act like y'all ain't met the act right sticks. So as adults, as adults, I do believe we have the act right sticks. And one thing I find is that it seems like we're always asking, protesting, demanding, and doing all sorts of stuff, insisting that we're respected as humans, that our rights, that our human rights are validated, are respected, and all things like that. But I find that a lot more people engage in the, what do you call it, immediate actions, and not as much in the longer term. We go for the short term, I'm mad, and not long term, this is gonna change. You mentioned how things in 2018 with the Amendment 4, but my concern, or what has bothered me, is that I feel like we're not doing this enough. We're not, for instance, okay, this annoys me to no end. I'm gonna just say this publicly. We don't need to ask people for apologies. I just wish people would stop demanding apologies. Like, we find that where people are asking for apologies from people that have been elected, from businesses, when we have the act right sticks. What do we need to do to get people to actually start using our dollars and our votes as the act right sticks that they are? Because to me, that's where it is. What do you guys think? Senator Powell, I cannot hear you. No. And now you just muted yourself. No. Mm-mm. No, we got nothing.
All right, I'm gonna kind of cover for the senator while he gets. He is, by the way, my favorite senator in Tallahassee, and he's not my local senator, but he's my fave. How do we get people to use their act right stick? We get people to use their act right stick by first of all, letting them know that they have it. I think for a large portion of our population, they don't know that they have it.
But haven't we been saying this forever, though?
Saying it and understanding that you have it are two different things, right? We actually, it requires that we have community leaders that activate what you're calling for, right? Like boycotts, activating for holding elected officials accountable, activating your groups to get them. The average person on their day-to-day, they're not thinking of the things that we're thinking about. They're trying to figure out how to pay their bills. They're trying to figure out how to get their kids through school. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do on it, like from day to day, to make it the bandwidth to think about civic engagement, the bandwidth. They don't have the bandwidth, and not because they don't want to. It's just because most of us are living paycheck to paycheck. Most people are really just trying to figure it out to make it. If you created a path, if we create, If we create a pathway for folks to follow, I believe some people will follow, enough will follow that it makes a difference. But we have to create that pathway. It can't be that we wait for the masses to come up with what to do, because most, again, people, particularly in our communities, are preoccupied with how to live day to day.
And I'll follow up on what Katya said. That's 100% true. I remember during one of my campaigns, when I was, begging people, because I knew it was going to be a very close election, and it really was a close election. It came down to 6 votes. That was the difference between whether I went to a runoff with the incumbent or whether I won outright. And those 6 votes saved me from having to, go into a runoff while 38 weeks pregnant. So, really, I remember the woman that I was talking to, and I was like, please go vote. And it's on election day that I'm talking to her. And she tells me, oh, honey, I'm doing laundry today. I'll go tomorrow. And I said, hold up, what? Today's election day. There is
That's
no
right.
tomorrow. Your laundry can wait. Like, let the whites soak, go vote, and come back and finish your whites. Okay. But I had to convince her and then beg her and then basically offer to get in a car and pick her up to go get her to the polls. And so that's the reality of what we face, where it's not that we can't make those changes. And, it's just hard for us, who politicians, lobbyists, community activists, senators, right? Like, we get it. This is the world we live in, and we see the reality of what's going on. Unfortunately, what Fox News and CNN and MSNBC, when people get so tired, when people saw the debate that happened last week between the president and the vice president, they're just like, when they just kind of shut out, and they're like, I'm done. This is why? They're like, why? And so they check out. You're good. Senator. You can hear me now. So basically, it becomes a matter of, what's more important for me, listening to these 2 old men bicker, or go taking care of my business and having a livelihood for my family? That's more important. So they pay attention to that. And it gets even worse when you get down to the local level, because who's my mayor? I don't know. Who's my commissioner? I don't know. And so how do we really make lasting, impactful change, except for those what do you call that? There's an analogy, like the thing in the pan, right? Whatever, English isn't my first language. But either way, so
I swear, y'all.
Flash in the pan. There you go. When those flash in the pan situations occur, like the George Floyds, like the Trayvon Martins, when those flash pan situations occur, people get motivated. They get mad. They get angry, because it's almost like it's always at the surface, and it's just ready to pop off whenever. But once this noise kind of settles down, regular life takes over again. And so, like Katya was saying, we need to find a way to kind of create a pathway that makes it easy, where it's almost like second nature for people to just vote, because it's just part of their day. It's part of their activities. It's part of their plan. So that's really what it comes down to, in order to help have long-term community engagement, and not just a flash pan situation where people just come in and out because they got hot and now it's not, and they're gone.
Well, I'll tell you, several years ago, a couple rappers wrote a song called "If You Ever Been Broke, Put Your Hands Up." And what I've realized by being in the legislature, that a lot of people play and prey on the fact that many people in our communities are economically disadvantaged, and their number one goal or number one thing they're thinking of is not voting, and not understanding how that impacts people economically. Today, just for instance, people don't think about what we as legislators do, but I passed by an area today in West Palm Beach that used to have a red light camera on it. And I went through the yellow light. Yes, the light was yellow, but it remained yellow for more, these lights are yellow for a longer period of time. But when the state came in and decided that you can put red light cameras on lights, the yellows would turn red really, really quickly, causing a lot of people not to get in accidents, but to get a lot of tickets to build up revenues. Well, people don't think about this, but one of the people who's directly responsible for eliminating red light cameras and making sure that we don't have them here in the state of Florida is your current county commissioner, Mac Bernard. Why? Because that impacted a lot of people in the communities that look like ours. Now, this is the truth. And people don't realize the policies that get put in place while we're not interested in voting. Those of us who are legislators, there's policies being put in place that are disadvantaged, disadvantaged to economically distressed people, including the fines and fees ordinance on those who have been incarcerated, including the fact that you can't get your rights restored or you can't become a full citizen after serving your time in jail. You have to wait at least 5 years to 7 years based on the former governor, Rick Scott's his doing, before you can even apply for a hearing. And they already have a backlog of 5 years. So you're talking about a minimum of 10 years before you can have your rights fully restored. Many people, not only do they not know that, but people aren't interested. I can tell you that there could be changes based on who are the policymakers. I remember standing in Family Dollar, yes, with a group of people telling them, the election is coming up. I was voting for Gillum, and I said, hey, the election's coming up. Gillum's running for governor, and I need you to go out and vote. And the lady said, none of these politicians don't come to our community, they don't do nothing for us, and da-da-da-da-da. And I said, ma'am, I'm your state senator, and I'm standing in line with you right now. And she said, I ain't never seen you before. I said, you know, ma'am, I'm around all the time. I go to almost every church. Everybody thinks I'm a member of their church. And I said, and I knock on doors in the community. I usually don't knock on doors when it's not election time because I'm actually doing the work. But if you get a little bit engaged, I assure you that if you reach out, I will let you know what's going on and I'll be there to help you. But when we don't, we continue to have, you know, we'll have bad politicians because those of us who are not politicians, but those of us who are citizens don't even know what we can hold politicians accountable for. For instance, I sit in the state Senate, but there's a man who constantly goes around Palm Beach County and tells me I'm not doing enough with the school board. And clearly he doesn't understand my role. I have a school board member who I talk to, and if there's an issue, her and I will discuss when I need to be at the school board, because that's how it works. You don't see me running to the county commission and saying, well, this needs to happen because I'm not a county commissioner, right? So you can't hold me accountable for a role that I don't serve in. And that is part of the problem.
Well, I'll use that to follow up, because one of the things that I wanted to ask was, like, and Katya, you started it. So you started it. I'm just finishing it. Are we who are a bit more aware? Actually, let me read what I wrote because I want to make sure I asked this right. Where did it go? Okay, so are those who know better failing the collective by not doing more to engage the others? As in, like, we know that there are certain things that we know are going on. There are certain things that we know. Even right now, we're talking about how some people are not as engaged. Is there more that we can do? Is there more that we should be doing, or what should we be doing? Because we have these conversations.
Well,
I know
want to
that
go
a
back
lot
to
of us
that point of the value of the dollar. No, I'm just joking. I saw that on the debate.
I don't even know what he's talking about, but I'm just gonna
Cutting people off.
Oh.
Okay. So Judy, let me chime in. No, we're not doing enough. All right. And
how do we do more?
Well, I mean, it's not hard. I mean, one of the things that we do a lot of stuff, but what we don't do enough of is to value those people that we call our constituents. We don't value our base enough. Let me give you an example. I've used this name before. In Delray, in most places, if the mayor asks to have lunch with you, you will have it because it's the mayor, right? But if one of your constituents asks to have lunch with you, and the mayor asks, now you got to make a decision. Who do I have lunch with? Based on who that is tells a lot about what the changes that we got to make. Senator, we talked about this a bit this morning, the difference between apathy in my mind and being disenfranchised. I'm not saying that I disagree, but I think most of our people in our community are not apathetic. They're disenfranchised, and disenfranchised for good reason. Their voice too often don't matter. I go to a lot of commission meetings, and very seldom do I hear the issues raised on the dais about the concerns of working families, particularly Black working families. That don't happen.
Is that our fault, though?
No, but yes, our fault, because we got Black elected officials who don't talk about it either. All right, and that's where I'm going. See, like the gentleman you have on, we co-organize. There are times I stand in front of him and can raise hell in a meeting, and he'll come back with the right or a response that lifts up the voice and honors the community. Dr. Robinson often organizes with community. Too many of our elected officials are elected officials and forget how to community organize. And our base need organizers on that dais who will also help our community see how the inside and the outside game happens. So let me go back to that. What did you call that stick?
Act right. Act right.
All right. The act right stick works because people see what happens to you when you don't act right.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I was one of those you had to use the act right stick on. I had cousins, when they saw the act right stick used on me, they learned what to do. When our community starts seeing our elected officials holding institutions accountable for these same disparities with each other, they are going to say, now I begin to learn how to use our voice. Very seldom do we see that happen. We see it happen sometimes, but not nearly often enough. I'll get out your way, Judy.
So what I always say, some people do right because it's right, and some people do right because we make them do right. Maybe the people who are elected, maybe the decision makers are not doing right, but the question is, the people are here. If the decision makers are not doing right, the people own the act right stick.
Yeah, but see, here's my pushback. We also got to see some elected officials who organize with us so we can see what could be different. We very seldom see an elected official. Now, Dr. Robinson does it all the time. All right. Mac Bernard doesn't do it quite the same way. He doesn't do it as robust and as passionate as Dr. Robinson does it. But how many times have you seen him bring policy with people sitting in that audience who has come to public comment to make change? When our community begins to see more of that, they're going to learn that there's a whole, like I'm a musician. You can't get good at being a musician without practice. And we can practice at the municipal level. That's where that practice can happen. At the county level, that's where the practice can happen. Yes, hold on, Bobby, go.
So, and I'm glad you didn't mention my name because I stay in trouble about that kind of stuff. So, thank you. But also remembering that as elected officials, having that good relationship with activists or organizers allows you the opportunity to continue to control policy while people also understand that you have a responsibility to your community. And with that being said, I've never really feared any repercussions politically because I've known that any conversation that we have in public with regard to what's going on in my community, that my community will have my back and it's the right thing to do. And sometimes we have elected officials or policymakers fear that other politicians or people behind the scenes are going to do something to them. And can I say this? I shouldn't say it. like Snoop. I'm gonna say it. Okay, a lot of people are afraid to run. That right? You will see a lot of elected officials be quiet until after the election because they don't want a challenger. Well, I am from the notion. I come from a school of thought with my friends and other family who like to run for office that when it's my time to go, it'll be my time to go. So if you want to run against me, if you think that I've done something that you don't like, the ballot is wide open. Come and get some, because while we're here, I am going to do what I believe is right. And if you want to run, that's fine with me too, because I'm an athlete and I'm here for the fight. And once we are done, we're going to get back to community. And if somebody is so lucky as to win the election against me, it's not like I will disappear, right? Because some of these people don't show up until it's election time, and all of a sudden you see signs and they're, oh, vote for me. But whatever you want to do, we have to make sure that elected officials or people who are running for office who are strong in policy, who are ready to get the job done, and who are not fearful of not being elected, right? I'm not afraid for people not to call me Senator Bobby Powell.
Okay, so Christina was afraid to say it publicly, but she kind of heard you say, "Come at me, bro." Or she's asking us if you just said, "Come at me, bro." Was that what you said?
My
absolutely what
I'm interpreting for the senator. I'm saying he's saying, "Come at me, bro."
I ain't
have the senator say that from the dais in Tallahassee. This is what my community wants, and I speak for my community. And those of you who do not agree with this, you didn't vote me here. So I can attest that the senator is not making this up. He says it in meetings. He says it from the dais. But I do want to echo and slightly challenge some of the sentiments that I hear. Being a person who works in this world, in this space, and working and having relationships with a lot of elected officials and a lot of people who have special interest groups, right? Our community needs to act as a special interest group. Our communities, I say this all of the time, and where we fall short as a community is essentially our community needs lobbyists. Our elected officials are pulled in a million different places. Like, they're pulled from here to there to here to there. And it isn't that the elected officials aren't fighting for their community. It's that when you start pulling a person in 50 million direct, and some elected officials are not as strong as other elected officials, just period. You have some that are fearless, like our good Senator Powell, and you have some that are a little bit more cautious. They live in districts that are a little bit different. As community leaders, and I keep going back to you, Mr. Chuck, I'm sorry, because it seems as though you're like Mr. Organizer. As the organizer, I think it's important that when you, especially on a local level, when you are going in to advocate for a policy, when you're going in to make a change, that not necessarily you look for the elected official to do it from the dais. There should be some type of coordination with the elected official. This is what we are coming to do. We have your back. We need you to support this. Too many times I've seen hey, we're the community and we want this and we this, but that elected official is there to support you. Now, if they don't do that, you know what to do with your stick.
That's right.
Stick is voting and you just get them unelected. But we can work with our elected officials because everybody has a different personality. Everybody has a different way of doing things. And there is something to be said about collaboration on a dais with the people whom you serve with. We can't, and I say this cautiously, our elected officials are elected officials. That is a very unique sport, and it takes practice, it takes time, it takes finesse to do that well for your community. Our elected officials are not organizers. Our elected officials are not there to rah, rah, rah. We rah, 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 and they support that. And I think that is the most effective way to use them as our tool. We elect them to be a tool for us. And it is on us to make sure that we yield that tool properly We can sit down with them. Hey, look, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're coming in to do. Who do you need us to go sit with, to talk to make this happen? Who do you believe is on this dais that's going to go against this? And then you go to those folks. And if there are people in their communities that you can get as allies, they meet with then meet with those folks. We have to organize in a smart way. We have to organize in an effective way where we weaponize the people who we've elected to do a thing.
Yeah, my pushback would be that organizing isn't yaga either, right? And so no, I got it. I was just telling you what my pushback would be. And what you shared was just a much more articulate way of expressing what I was trying to express, that choreography. But we still have many elected officials that would have to learn that choreography so that the organizer, we can bring, then when you got that dance now, then I can bring through the ladder of engagement community members to a meeting or a public setting or even City Hall so that they can begin to see government work on their behalf. Because the emphasis of what I'm trying to place is too often the people that we're talking about don't see government work on their behalf. Like my cousin, when I was getting the get right stick or whatever the name was, get up, and I got beat all the time, right? So, but my cousins learned they were much smarter than me. They could learn most of their lessons based on my whippings. And I'm not talking about the whipping. I would love to see us have more opportunity to demonstrate to our community just how government work through organizing and having elected officials who want to organize with you. That's all I meant by the organizer. I didn't mean for them not to be an organizer. I just want them to organize with the organizers.
Okay, so hang on, Christina. Before we go any further, I gotta say hi to a few people because we have people here watching. Say hi. Hi DJ. Actually, you guys, Christina, you know DJ too. Hi DJ, that's my brother. And my sister keeps getting on me because I always tell people that's my brother. Oh, that's my sister. Nikki is my sister. Yeah, that's my sister. She keeps making fun of me like that's, I don't know, something weird. And my cousin Valerie's here. Hey Val, and who's there? Zazu there. Hey, and Dennis is here. Hi Dennis. Okay. All the other people, there are some other people, but they're being very quiet. So hi, other quiet people. There's a question in the chat, and it's how do we educate people on the roles of public leaders? Because the older I can I finish her question? Because the older I get, the more I learn of another position. Growing up, the only commissioner I knew of was on the Batman cartoon. I didn't even know Batman had a commissioner, but okay. Hi, Imani. So go ahead, Christina.
Batman. Pick me. I want this question. That was a great question. And I think it's okay. First of all, let's make sure we address the commissioner reference on Batman. Let's educate you, Judy. So the commissioner was the police commissioner on Batman. And in our community here in Palm Beach, that would probably be the equivalent of a police chief or a sheriff, right? Like Sheriff Rick Bradshaw or our police chief in Boynton Beach, Michael Gregory. Commissioner Gordon, yes. And if you saw Lego Batman, his daughter became the commissioner. She took over for him. Yeah, anyway, too much information. I have kids, so I watch all these kids' movies. Anyways, but to answer the question though, we're having a lot of fun. I'm glad we're having a lot of fun in this conversation because this is a very serious conversation, but in all seriousness, like there's some good nuggets coming out of this. So in terms of how do we educate people, I love that question. And so that's why I was like, pick me, because I felt like there was such a need for that very question to be addressed that I went ahead and got busy during this whole, quarantine pandemic. People got busy and remodeled their home. I got busy and built a whole company to help address this very question of how do we make sure we get more people. First of all, more people knowledgeable about government. Then on top of that, how we then take those people and put them into government, because you can't make the change from the outside looking in. You have to be on the dais, in the seat, at the table, making those decisions. Let me finish.
I'm raising
You
my
have to be
hand.
either at the table making decisions as an elected official, or have some type of knowledgeable role where you are a partner, you are a community activist, you are able to kind of help bridge those gaps and make all those things happen. This is how you change government for your benefit. And to kind of go back to the topic that we were talking about before, one of the reasons why it's very hard for elected officials of color to really make impactful changes for their community is usually because they're usually the only one on the dais. It's usually the token Black person that's on the dais, and they can only do so much because their colleagues don't get where they're coming from. They don't get the struggles of the communities that they represent. So when they bring up policies or they bring up topics that could help those people that they represent, they usually get shot down, or they get outvoted, or people are just like, no, I'd rather use the money for this or give it to that developer. We don't need to go give it to go give social welfare away. We could do other things. So if you hear those comments and you hear those lines of thought, you have to also realize that there's a power of numbers, right? We need more elected officials of color to sit in different positions of power in order for us to actually see the results of electing these people into power, because there's only so much that one token Black person can do on a dais or on a commission or in a group. That's my take. Judy, you are the host, so you can speak when you want.
Right now, my hand about to fall out because I'm raising my hand.
You can speak when you want, but I just wanted to make sure I finished my.
Okay. First, you said you can't. You have to be on the dais to make change.
Grain of salt, Judy.
Okay, no, because for me that was like, oh no, we don't.
I did
like, no, we don't.
Say that everybody else plays their role. Everybody
plays their role. That is true, but
yes.
And that's a misconception, or that's a thing that's been in our community that I don't want people to that's a thought that I don't want anyone to ever have, that you have to be elected in order to make a difference, in order to be able to make change. That's why we got the act right stick. And as you were speaking, you mentioned how, yes, it is true. There's more often than not, you have that one Black person there. And that one Black person is not enough to make the change. Again, that's why we have the act right stick. Everybody else is there. I understand that there are 4 other people that do not care about what I may need, what our community may need. But shouldn't our community be using, like, and that is something that I know we do a lot that bothers me, is that when it's one of us, when it's a Black person, we always have all these demands. Like, random person comes, hey, I'm running for this, I'm running for that. Sure, I'll vote for you. I'll give you a shot. Black person comes, hey, I'd like to run for the guy who turns on the light in the morning. Okay, what are your qualifications? Can I get a note from your 5th grade teacher? Do you have a blood sample? Can I get a DNA test? Like, a Black person has to run through so many different hoops to prove to us that, hey, this guy is capable of flipping a switch, but we give everyone else the benefit of a doubt. That's one thing I like. If nothing else, that's one thing we need to stop.
I want to take it back a little bit.
All right.
I learned that again from you. So one of the things that we really started to hamper on a little bit earlier was the idea, and Katya touched on this, is that when we have lobbyists come to our office and ask us for things or ask us for a vote, and who are strong on policy. Sometimes we need lobbyists who remind us of the community that we come from. We also need lobbyists who have something in common with us, who are familiar with us, like myself. Both Katya and I served as legislative aides. We both took different paths. She went and became a lobbyist, as well as she's an entrepreneur and very creative individual who shifts and makes some things happen when it comes to making things happen, not only in the community, but also in Tallahassee. I went and became a policymaker where I'm in the legislature now, but we are both equally important. Plus, we have an opportunity to build a relationship. And what we understand is everything happens based on this idea of economics and economy. If you can make sure that money comes back to your community, money goes into the pockets of people who look like you. Money is what people are really able to make things happen and move from. What I've seen with regard to politics, even here in Palm Beach County, is people are saying, I want you to vote for me, right? Vote for me, vote for me, vote for me, or vote Democratic or vote Republican or vote whatever. And they're saying to us, as Chuck talked about earlier, well, I haven't seen any changes in my community. We still have dilapidated buildings. There's been no road construction on this side of the tracks. There have been no parks. So making sure that we create policy and economic decisions that impact the communities. Sometimes we'll call it low income communities or different areas where you can see that growth, and now you see the changes and you have better schools. You have an opportunity for better roads, better transportation systems, which is major because a lot of people use transportation to go to and from work. When you can change those things and point them out, listen, this is what we did in your community. The reason you can now ride one bus and get somewhere in 20 minutes as opposed to 3 buses in the same location in 3 hours is because we implemented a intermodal transportation system that is sufficient enough that will allow you to do those things. And plus, we have to uplift the community. Remember, we also have to train our own community and communities that it's okay when we have to, as elected officials, we're here to pass out a turkey or a toy on Christmas or a book bag to go back to school. But we're also putting you in position so that one day you will be the one helping to pass those things out, and you yourself will put your family in an opportunity to build generational wealth where you don't have to accept a book bag. You can go buy the one you want. You don't have to accept a turkey. You can go get the turkey you want, and you don't have to ask for get in line, wait overnight to get one toy. You can go and buy all the toys that you want. You can buy the store if you want. You can own the store, and that's what we have to train people to know. Don't just give me a piece of the pie. I don't want a piece of the pie. What I want a whole pie.
Yeah. I know Tasha has something to say, but before you go, can I just say hi, Masai? Masai is listening. Masai has no idea what we're talking about. But hi, Masai. Oh, hi, Oren. Because that's coming next. Hi, Oren.
I wanted to go back to a few things that I made note of. Mr. Chuck said something about showing the community that their work is an action. I think I'd recommend doing something small, right? Like finding something small that you can get community folks around, working with an elected official, bringing them in. They don't have to know it's small, right? It just could be something that I think showing people little things really helps in getting folks engaged. Another point that I wanted to make, and something Christina said, in terms of there's usually just this one Black person on the dais or a small group of Black people if it's a lot of elected officials. Listen, I've seen this happen. And like Senator Powell say, I work in this field in different ways. When our elected officials don't do the things that other communities want done, you know what they do? They come into our communities and they fund the people who will get done what they want done. And that requires, and this is where we have a deficit because it requires money. They have the money, they have the economic wherewithal, they have the political wherewithal to do stuff like that. And when we don't get the things that we want out of elected officials that sit on a dais that represent an entire, say, Delray Beach, as opposed to just a portion of Delray Beach, the onus is on us to say, you may not represent me directly, but you represent the whole, and we are part of the whole. We can challenge those people too. We need to learn to play in other elections, even if I tell people, even if it's going to make your summer horrible. I don't care if you're going to win, but you're going to know next time you're going to think twice about disregarding us when we come to have a conversation with you. I'm going to make you knock on doors all summer. I'm going to make you have to go and raise money. Folks should not be allowed to run unopposed when they don't do right by our communities. I will put somebody on that ballot. I will ruin your entire summer. You will be raising money. You will be knocking on doors and you will be sweating. I don't even care if I win or lose, but you gonna know I was here. So the next time I come with my community and I have an issue, you're gonna think about what you want your summer to look like. You're going to think about how much of an inconvenience it is. So we may not have money the way that they have money to play in our races, but I think it's time that we start retraining ourselves that when these folks don't go, when they just disregard us and they don't play nice with our elected officials, then it is time that we ruin their summers. It is time that we make sure that we put people in their races. That is what I mean by the political wherewithal. We're not always going to win, but they're going to know we were here.
And before anything else happens, Bobby Attic says hi. Bobby Attic says hi. I did it. She just called me out in the she just called me out in the chat. She's like, you didn't tell Bobby I said hi.
And the last thing that I wanted to say is Senator Powell talked about that there's nothing I hate more than book bag giveaways and turkeys and all that other stuff. And it's not that I hate them for what they do, because we have people who need in our community, but I hate that if you're an elected official and that's the only time I see you, I have a problem with that. I have a problem with constantly giving fish and not teaching people how to fish. Constantly giving fish and not making sure that the environment is good so that we can have some fish that we can pick out of. So if you're an elected official and you're in my community and that's the only time I see you, I have a problem with it. And like I said, I can't stress this enough. We can no longer say, oh, these folks didn't vote for us, but there's nothing that we can do. There is something that we can do. Even if it's just calling around, getting a couple folks, raising some money. Everybody knows somebody that can give $10, $5, $1, if whatever it takes to get somebody registered to run against someone who's not going. Like, we have got to start challenging people who don't stand for our communities. And at some point, they start to figure it out. They play in ours. We need to play in theirs.
Well, the other thing for me too, and Chuck can can probably speak to this as well. I remember in 2012.
That's what community is. That's what community is right there. Hey.
So in 2012.
Wait. Can we sing happy birthday for her? It was just her birthday.
Say hi.
Hi, baby. Hi. She just turned 2.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Taylor. Happy birthday.
She said, y'all can't say.
Sing her off, man.
Like her daddy, she tell the truth.
Katia, boom.
What happened now?
I was telling Katia, boom shakalaka.
So you were talking about putting someone in the race. In 2012, when Al wanted to run for commissioner of the city of Delray Beach, the pushback was, Delray's not ready to have 2 Black people. Go run against Angie, because there's another Black person. Go run in the Black seat against the other Black person. And we're always being told to wait our turn and do this and do that. And many of our people are afraid to run because they believe money is how you win elections. In many cases, that is true. But when Al wanted to run in 2012, and they told him to wait his turn and go run the other Black person, and Al, being Al, if you know Al, you know Al, said, no, I'm running again. I'm running in the open seats. We had no money. But we had community. We had people. And I will never forget this. I think this lady has since passed away. I think her name was Pat or something like that. At one of the debates, Pat said, Al, I like Al. I got shoes older than Al. And it was just, I think that was what gave me that extra motivation. But what we ended up doing was they blocked the money. They blocked the the inside support, but the one thing that they could not block was the community support. And at the end of the day, Al ended up winning his election.
By a landslide.
But that had 4 people. Out of 4 people, he was able to get more than 50% of the vote. And we had no money. And that's what I want people to know, that yes, money wins elections in a lot of situations. But a lot of times it's us. Because I was in Okeechobee making phone calls because I was working on a project in Okeechobee at that time. Al was driving, like he tells the story about me in Okeechobee and his little Volkswagen. But it was a community that did it. Why aren't we doing more of that?
Well, we are. And what we've learned, Katia, is that absolutely. Oh Lord, have mercy. I didn't realize what time it is. Too often we're trying to win races when it's as impactful to swing elections, particularly the local elections. In Palm Beach County, too often they are won on the smallest of margins, right? And particularly in Delray, we have built infrastructure that's built on relationships and built on the technology we saw you use, Julie. So, it's a combination of having a ground game, a combination of developing phone lists and having access to the same technology that the elected officials have, but we've become the consultant for our community during election cycles. And especially if we feel that it's going to be a election where it won't be close, we ain't got no problem putting a person in the race because we know what it does to that race. And so the maturity that is happening in Delray is now beginning to happen with the clergy in Boynton. We're beginning to see it happen with other groups in Rivera. We're beginning through Unified to build that maturity where the community becomes its own consultant, running a campaign from the community's perspective, and our candidate becomes our platform. So, Julie, all I'm saying is that we're learning it. We got to get better at it, right? And the other part that we got to get better at is that having a political convening table, right? One thing Unified doesn't apologize about is that we're a political organization, and we are a Black political organization. One Black, many tribes. But what that table means that if you support Bobby and well, if you don't support Bobby, that's a bad. Okay. If you support candidate A and I support candidate B, it is your responsibility to make sure that they deliver on the Black agenda. And if it is my responsibility to make sure that my candidate delivers on the Black agenda, and then the community wins no matter who gets elected. Because at that point, we began to push them. So we're learning, Julie. We're learning that these elections are run on real narrow margins.
I love that. Absolutely. I love everything about what you just said.
Can I say one thing, Katya, before you go? Chandler Valerie says happy birthday. Mike's yours.
That was it. I just wanted to say I love what he had to say. That type of organizing is happening from a community level, learning the mechanisms of campaigning, learning the mechanisms of pushing your agenda. So I love it. I love that. Chuck, we need to talk after this call. I love it.
Okay, so how do we bring James and Paul and Tyrone? I couldn't think of other names.
You sound like who was that? What city was that?
That's what I remember.
You said, how do we bring them along?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. We bring them along by not making it so much about the candidate and making it about the community and the platform. And so when we go into the community, we began to talk and educate, and we actually do the same strategy. We start with our data, start doing the persuasion cycle, but we're persuading our neighborhoods because we do elections year round. In our work, start persuading them, doing during that period, and do exactly what Katie did. We make them spend money, so that they know that we're out there and do it. And you go get Tyrone by talking about what Tyrone needs. And then the other thing is we don't oversell what a vote is. What we do is make sure it's clear that a vote is a means to an end, not the end game. Mm-hmm. The engagement and taking control of your community is the end game. Building power is the end game. And so that's how we get them. And they're beginning to learn. They're beginning to learn and move forward. Not fast enough. But now, it just takes time. It just takes time.
I think it's important to, if we're reaching out to Tyrone and Paul and James and Tyrone and them, that we find Erica and Jill and them to reach them. We got to work with what we got. So it's easier for me to have a conversation with my friend. It's easier for me to have a conversation with my boyfriend, with my cousin, with my neighbor. A lot of the work that I'm doing around this election cycle is based and anchored in getting people to commit to at least touching 20 people on their phones, right? To get those 20 people to vote. And you can do it by text, you can do it by phone, you can do it by just however. It's about, we get one, let them go get the others. If we start that way, where we're community building that way, where if I can teach or bring you in, Judy, then you can bring someone else in, and then they can bring someone else in. We want to multiply in a way that is smart. We want to multiply our messages in a way that is conducive to the way that we operate. We operate on social media. We operate via text messaging. I've been telling people, especially with this election, I've been telling people, listen, I heard someone say this today and I thought it was fantastic. Voting for someone isn't marrying that person. Voting for a candidate means that you are voting to get. It's sort of like choosing a bus route. You're not marrying that bus route. You're not riding that bus all the way to your destination. That bus route, you choose the bus route that best gets you to where you need to go, that best gets you closest to where you have to go. When you get off the bus, you may have to walk a block, you may have to walk 2 blocks, but you just make sure that you get on the bus route that's taking you to the best place. Sometimes we get very tied in and like, oh my God, you're married to that. You're not married to that person. You're married to what's important to you. That's what you're married to. And who's going to get you closest to what's important to you? I deviated, but the point I was trying to make was sort of each one teach one. Commit to getting 20 people to go vote. Commit to getting 20 people. That might be a little harder for a city council meeting, but if you have something going on, say, you know what, look, we got 10. We can go get drinks afterwards. We can go kick it afterwards, but can we get 2 or 3 people? I may know what we need to talk about. I just need you to come have my back. And then when they come, they see the process. Let's multiply our voices by our own circles. We don't have the resources that other communities have. We're not going to get on. We don't have the money for TV. We're not going to do all that. But we do have the ability to text. Like, people share with me stuff all day. Memes, gossip, jokes. We can share important information as easily as we can share some of this insignificant stuff. So that I think is the vehicle that we would use to reach Paul and Tyrone and them, each other. We all know Paul and Tyrone.
Yeah. And thank you, Katya, for saying that, because absolutely, I think we forget the ladies, we forget the women. And as a lone woman on my commission, I always want to, remind the ladies to bring it in and bring it home. And if you look at the women who've served in political roles and the impact and the power, look at Dr. Debbie Robinson, look at Kamala Harris, look at these, look at Yolanda Cash Jackson, look at Katya, the Black women. And let me make sure I'm very specific about what I'm saying. I love white women, they're great, but the Black women who get up and who lead their communities always have some type of impact they bring with them that is just lasting and makes a legacy behind them that opens the doors, because it's almost as if like the fact that she's done it, it's almost like everybody else can do it too now. We almost have a open door policy that allows for others to really bring home the fact that your community is a community that you can lead and you can take the reins, regardless of, you know, what your background or your income or your gender or your whatever. And so, you know, one of the things I also want to harp on as well is that, you know, for me, I'm nearing the end of my term, and one of the problems that I'm looking at and foreseeing is the succession planning. Who's here to take over my place? Who's here to continue the work that I've done for the community that I've been representing for the last nearly 5 years? And so I said, I need to solve this problem. And so I've been teaching other people how to run for office, because I feel like if I can't I can't live forever. I can't continue to sit in this seat forever. So I need to find other people to bring them on board. And so that's men, that's women, that's, you know, young people, that's old people, that's people who've been thinking about it for a long time and like, oh, can I do it? Maybe. I get them in and we teach them, and all of a sudden their confidence is up here because they're realizing, oh, okay, it's not that hard. Oh, you did it when you were 27. Oh, you don't have a poli-sci major. You're not an attorney. You're not this. You're not that. And once you kind of break down those barriers for people, it just allows the floodgates to open. So that's what we need to do more of as we kind of wrap up this conversation, of just continuing to break down those barriers and open up those doors and show women and men and people of color and Black people especially that, you know, our seat at the table is waiting. We just need to take it.
Okay, before anything else, I wasn't leaving out the women. Those were just the names I could think of. So it's not me. It's what's her name? Erica Badu. She only mentioned those.
Well, let me help you. Lakeisha, Christina, Katya, Judy. Who else? Marie, Marianne, Anne-Marie. Oh, Anne-Marie Sorrell. Speaking of,
Whitney.
right, let's name them all. Whitney.
All right.
Whitney's running, by the way.
Who's running?
Emery will be on the ballot.
We know.
Oh, Bobby said Whitney. See, I like Bobby. Bobby's like, Whitney.
100%. He knows who he's representing for.
Okay, so let me just read one comment. It says, get that group together, show that presence, and then grab drinks or food after. But at the same time, you open the door to showing new people the process, and at the same time, bringing the numbers. So I guess he's agreeing with what you were saying, Katya. And Elise says, oh, hey, Elise. Hey, Jen. Elise says, oh, tell Chandler. Genevieve says, happy birthday. And Elise says, each one bring one. I like it's not each one teach one, each one bring one. I like it.
Let me point out a significant fact that in a book written by in the book, The New Jim Crow, written by I believe it's Michelle Alexander, she points out that after Reconstruction, the number of Black people who ran for political office and leadership roles was significantly higher in terms of percentage-wise than it is today. You all harped on this idea earlier of, you know, the one Black person that represents in an area, and that's because it's a condition. People have been conditioned to believe that you can only serve in a particular seat or a particular area if you're Black. We have to holistically remind people that we always talk about this Constitution, which, by the way, the Constitution in 1776 was drafted with the idea and the fact that Black people at the time were not considered people and were considered property. So, but that Constitution did say that all men are created equal and are endowed with certain inalienable rights. And among those are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Okay, well, endowed with rights, that means we can, as people, not just Black people, not just as women or men, there's only women and men, but we can run for office, and it doesn't have to be a seat that's designated for a particular person or a particular race.
We can't run in the Black seat?
You can run in any seat that you want to run in. It doesn't, and you have to, And 2020 changed the conversation. We've said that people have said, well, let's not just talk about race. Let's not talk about race. Well, then that's great. Let's not talk about race. Let's talk about people taking leadership roles in 2020 and running for different offices, irregardless of what race they are, irregardless of what sex they are, man or woman, irregardless of how people feel. And not only that, taking opportunities to step up into corporate level positions, the C-suite. At this point in time in 2020, at the top Fortune 500 companies, there's only, I believe, 3 Black CEOs of major companies. And we have to work diligently to change that. And it begins with the mind shift. And if you can change a person's mind, they can do amazing things. If it were not for a Mac Bernard telling me that you will be the next state representative, you will run for state representative, you will win, then maybe, just maybe, I wouldn't have had the wherewithal to accept the challenge, right? Because those were big shoes to fill. You got to think about it. Mac Bernard, he is a tax attorney. First of all, he was told that Black people don't become tax attorneys. Mac Bernard was born in Haiti, came here at 10 years old, learned English, right? And then went to school. And y'all got to understand, Mac Bernard finished college, his first degree in like 2 years. That's even unheard of, right? Then he went on, opened up a shoe store for a year and decided he was going to go to law school. Who does that? Now you're saying, Bobby, you're gonna replace me. And I'm thinking, what? I'm going to do what? But guess what? He said, you are able. What is that? What is the Bible quote? He is able. So I was able to follow him and continue to do a great job. And today, he and I both represent Palm Beach County in 2 of the most prestigious seats that elected people can have. He's the county commissioner. I'm the state senator. Together, we are team satisfaction. But regardless.
Okay, so I'm just gonna point out Mac was on the first panel, his wife was on the second, his sister was on the third, and we finally get Bernard free, and Bobby makes a whole 30 minutes conversation about Mac Bernard. But hey, that's my
What is that saying? I am Mac Bernard. I'm Mac Bernard. I am Mac Bernard. I am Mac Bernard.
But
I am Mac Bernard.
Mac Bernard.
I'm just laughing at y'all. But okay, let's go. Oh wait, did it look like? Oh, just okay. For a second there, I thought I lost the stream, but sorry. Okay, so we've had a good conversation. We got to talk about this stuff. So, what should we be doing right now to make sure that we not only do we have these conversations, not only do we know that, hey, this is possible, to bring Keisha, Leisha, Janae, Monet, Angela, Monique, and okay, all my name references come from songs, sorry. And what's the first guy's name before James? That guy, James, Paul, and Tyrone. What are we doing? What can we do? What should we be doing to educate, to bring people in? Because it's not enough that we have these conversations. We know what should be done, but Ray Random needs to be here too. No,
I'm going to reiterate what I said before, which is Ray and them are not going to watch your show, but I may have a conversation with Ray and them. So it's each one teach one. It's the same thing. It's making sure that you reach out to people that you know and tell them what's important. Post occasionally, like the stuff that you post that are about politics, they're not going to get as much likes as the stuff that you post that's just ratchet, right? Like funny things get more likes, but they see it. So just do that. Just post it. If you know that you're going to go vote early, send 20 people a text message. Hey, I'm going to go vote early today. Early voting starts October 19th. So the morning of October 19th, you can say, hey, after work, I'm going to go vote. I just wanted you guys to know that you can go vote now. Something as simple as putting that text together and sending it to 20 people. Something as simple as posting vote today and sending it to 20 people. If your county is doing something that's important and you know about it, post it so that other people can see it. Because of course, like I said, they don't have the time to follow what's happening, even though it affects your life greatly. You just don't. What's most immediate at that time is how you're going to feed your family. So it's each one to each one. It's me and my crew, me and my family. I'm that person in my family. I'm that person within my circle of friends who is more politically inclined. If you're that person in your circle, you just do that. Just put that on your shoulders, put that on your back. This is what I'm going to do. This is my civic duty. It isn't that you have to run for office. It isn't that you have to raise a bunch of money. It isn't that you have to give money. It could just be that you motivate your 20 to be engaged, your 3 to go to a county commission meeting, your 5 to send a text message or send an email to someone who's not doing what you want to do. So that's kind of that's how I think that we bring in the fold, is by doing it amongst your immediate reach.
I could work with that. Anyone else want to chime in on that one? Okay.
I'll quickly follow. Katya hit it right. I don't really have too much more to add on to that. All I will simply do is just also remind people, because this is kind of like the thing that I just keep harping on. You don't have to wait for permission to run, right? You don't have to wait for permission to run. So if you see an opportunity to not only serve your community in terms of kind of like, getting people out and voting and putting things on your Facebook page to remind people, or sending out text messages. If you see a role for yourself in addition to just being somebody to kind of push people to go, and you yourself want to lead, please lead, get up, stand up, rise up and lead, because we need more people. We need more people who look like us, who know our backgrounds, who know our communities, to represent our communities. And just as Senator Powell said, somebody empowered him to run. He didn't see himself in that role prior to him inhabiting that role. And now you can't tell him he can't fulfill that role or any other role above that. I foresee Senator Powell being our next congressman. I foresee him, serving, in DC and representing us, here in South Florida. I foresee that. And I foresee that for any of those people who are watching us here.
On that, let's pause. We got to touch and agree on. Let's touch and agree on it.
Amen.
All right. I'm game.
I'm sorry.
Laying hands on the man. Listen, my mom spoke all that into me, and here I am, and I am a vessel willing to put it all out there, and I am ready to really take anybody who wants to join us on this journey of leading our communities and serving the communities that have put us where we are, have brought us where we are. I'm here. I am offering myself as a resource to anybody who needs it, to figure out how to kind of navigate this landscape of coming into politics. This is what we need, and we need to find more of us who are willing to lay out the red carpet for others to follow. And when you have a willing volunteer who's saying, "Come to me, I will teach you, young grasshopper," take advantage and jump. So you have a great group of people like Senator Powell, like Dr. Judy, who have been doing their work in the community to activate and motivate and educate and teach. I am a product of those people investing in me and taking their time to say, yeah, you can do it. And so I did. And I hope that others will take on that challenge and carry forward that mantle. Thank you.
Okay.
Let me chime in.
Okay.
I'd like to say something with regard to what Commissioner Romulus just said, and what Katya also said. In terms of positions and opportunities for leadership, we hold the idea that opportunity is limited, which is incorrect, right? Opportunity is not limited. Opportunity is abundant. What people have to realize is that there's a lot of room at the top, meaning once you continue to get professional development, once you step up into different roles, once you step up, because 90% of being successful is being on time, 95% is being on time and being prepared and willing to do the work. And abundance is available for everybody. So if Katya's lobbying, she's not worried about me becoming a lobbyist and taking food off of her plate, because she knows together we can accomplish more. But there's so many people who operate out of scarcity that they try to do their best. Instead of working together to get more, they work on blocking each other. And that's one thing that happens with political people, and it's happened with politicians. I will tell any person who wants to learn how to run for office, like Commissioner Ramla said, I'm not going to be in this spot forever. I'm not going to. So I'm willing to lift the next person up to be successful. I want them to do a good job. And I will tell you, like I said before, I'm not going anywhere. Katya is not going anywhere. You, Dr. Judy, are not going anywhere. Chuck, we're not going anywhere. We're here to build that next generation and continue to grow. Lisa Nichols says it best: abundance. Now we operate out of abundance. You know what's crowded? Let me tell you what's crowded. The bottom. The jobs at the bottom. There's a lot of people working for minimum wage. Those jobs you will fight to death to get a minimum wage job. What's not crowded is the people who are running for state senate, right? Because when it comes time to run for state senate, at the most, there will be 4 or 5 people that want to run for this job if the seat becomes open, as opposed to applying for a job at a box store where there's 1,000 people applying for the minimum wage job. So stop thinking that it's hard. Stop thinking that it's scarce. Abundance is available at the top. What's crowded is the bottom. Let's move. The more you level up, people will tell you all the time, and I'm not knocking anyone. I don't care if you go to trade school. I don't care if you go to college. I don't care what you do to professionally develop yourself, but do it. Because people will knock you all day and say college ain't for everybody. Well, I'll tell you this: being broke ain't for everybody either. I tried it and I didn't like it.
Okay. So is it? I think this is what the part where we say amen. Okay, so I asked you guys, we're up at that time, we're way past that time, but one of my questions that I ask everyone, before I ask that one question, I want to ask, is there anything else that we didn't share that you'd like to share before I ask my final question? No? All right.
So vote. Make sure everybody votes. That is all I talk about from now to the 3rd. Go.
And the census.
And oh my God, the census, there's an extension on the census. It, especially for Black and Brown communities, our Haitian communities, make sure if you have not done it, we have an extension, get the census done. Incorporate that into every conversation you have. Oh, by the way, have you done the census? Oh, by the way, have you done the census? Because before politicians can actually fight for us to bring resources, we have to have those resources allocated in proportion for our communities to begin with. So it's important that we get counted. Our numbers are our voice. It's how we get our fair share of the taxes that we pay.
Okay.
Cool. And my last plug will be to invite anybody who wants to learn how to run for office to join me on my meetup class. The class is called Strategies to Run for Politics and Win. So feel free to join us there. And I am teaching this class to individuals who want to learn how to run for office.
Okay, I'll if you send me the link, I'll add it in the description. Okay, so my last question is, we know it's been hard times it's been 2020, and it's been 2020 in America, and it's been 2020 in America for Black people. My question is, what are you guys doing for self-care? How are you releasing the stuff that you take in during these 2020s? And that question is for all 3.
Well, thanks for asking that question, Dr. Judy. Anytime I'm feeling down, I know that Dr. Judy has therapeutic videos on YouTube, and I take the opportunity every day to watch one of her videos and lift myself up. That's what I do for self-care. You can do it too. Go to www.youtube.com and type in Dr. Judy C.
Oh my God, that's why Can I tell you? That's like number 597,000 reason why I gotta love Bobby. Like what like no, you know what? 599,000. Like, dude.
How do you follow that? I'm done.
No, but you still gotta answer the question. Y'all both gotta everybody gotta answer the question. What are you doing for self-care? That's part.
Well, yes, other than watching Dr. Judy on YouTube consistently, I have her playing in the background all the time, 24/7.
You said it sounded sarcastic when you said
no. You want to hear it?
No.
I have you in two places playing, actually. What I've done a lot of is just try to really stay engaged in terms of mentally checking on myself. It's very hard right now, especially because of all the different places that, as a parent, for example, that we're being pulled in. We're being pulled by our kids. We're being pulled by our jobs that we still have to dedicate time to virtually. We're being pulled by, whatever projects we're doing, especially as elected officials, as politicians. We're being pulled by the people who desperately need us right now, because times are hard. They're losing their jobs. They don't know how to stay on top of their rent. So my concerns and my worries are not just for myself, but they're for all the people I represent. And so that takes a heavy toll on me, and it's a burden that I carry. But through the help of individuals, seriously, like Dr. Judy, talking to her sometimes really is a good release to help me understand that I can only take care of so many people if I don't take care of myself, and remembering to do that first. And so I try to sleep. I work on things that I'm passionate about. I give back to my community in ways that I can. So those are some of the tangible ways that I've been trying to, work on Christina throughout this time. And as long as I'm able to at least give to Christina, then I am able to give to everybody else.
Okay. Katya.
Self-care. I have a therapist, so I have someone that I talk to every 2 weeks for an hour. So that works for me. And I've recently taken up cycling, and I love it. And it's I call it time with me and God. So when I'm cycling, I'm able to clear my mind. I'm able to have thoughts. I'm able to release. I'm able to go fast. Where I live, it's only about 8 miles to the beach. So I can ride to the beach and I ride back. So I've really started incorporating a healthier lifestyle in terms of getting moving and getting out of the house. Those of us who work from home, it can be a lot to not have some fresh air. It can be a lot for the TV to be on and the news is playing constantly, and there's nothing positive, right? Like we don't have a news cycle right now that has anything positive to say. So unplugging from that for a couple of days sometimes is very helpful for me. But I really have learned that taking up cycling has been like the best thing for me. Working out has been amazing. Just being able to it allows me to clear my thoughts. So I'd recommend that to anyone. If you're not physically active, find something that you like to do that you look forward to doing. And it works for me. And of course, my therapist helps me from not murdering people.
You know what I forgot to say as well? Thank you, Katya. Katya knows this about me. She even helped with this situation. I like to write in a journal. And I think that's because some people put stuff on Facebook. When you put your thoughts and feelings on Facebook, they are open to the world for critique, and they're also open for future reference. So I write in a journal, which is therapeutic. And it allows me to get my thoughts out. And sometimes it allows me to map things out in a way that I hadn't put together inside of my head. I've also been jogging in the neighborhood a bit more. I actually now know what the houses on my street look like. And I've met some of my neighbors, which was cool because they didn't know I lived here and I didn't know they lived here. And I thought that was great. But now we know each other. And I've been spending a lot of time just getting to know my my 2-year-old. She is just watching her grow. I move so much doing this elected thing that, it gives me time to slow down and think and process things. So it's been tough for people who have passed away or gotten illness, but it's been it's provided opportunity for pacing.
Awesome.
There she goes.
Hey, Chandler. Did you tell her everybody said happy birthday? Okay. Thank you guys. And thank you so much. Christina, go ahead.
I was going to add one last thing. In addition to journaling, in addition to finding an outlet through exercise or through therapy, meditation or prayer, I for me has been a God, literally a godsend. I use something called the Calm app, and it's really just a very just low key way to just decompress at the end of the day and just kind of wash away all the noise and chaos and stress about the day that you just finished and the day that's coming up and all the other days that are going to come after. Sometimes our brains just don't know when to quit. And so doing things like just putting it in a state of calm really helps. So that's helped for me as well.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Thank you guys so very much for coming. And yes, as usual, we seem to keep going over this. I started at an hour and we blew that. And now I said, okay, 90 minutes. And now we're a little bit past that 90-minute mark. But thank you guys so much for coming and for having this conversation with us and for sharing your wealth of knowledge and all that stuff. If there's nothing else, right? So I guess I will say thank you everyone who watched. Let me acknowledge a couple people who were here. Dennis, Imani, DJ, Nikki, Valerie, Jen, Genevieve, Elize. Those are the people who actually spoke. If you are here or were here and didn't say anything, yeah, I still like you. I still think you're awesome. And thank you for watching. And that's about it. I think that is all we have for today. Good morning, world. Have an awesome day.